Sammy's got beautiful names for it. I just say that this looks like a meatball and that is like yogurt.
Is it?
You may explain to us.
Quinoa cigars in a tomato-based sauce.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just some Greek yogurt with honey, walnuts, and papaya.
Okay. Yummy.
So what are we talking about today?
Welcome everybody to another episode of Let's Talk, and we're going to be talking about a very serious topic today, and that's gender-based violence. So my friends and I, you know everybody, you know Nolu, you know Naya, and you know Sammy, and we're here today just to discuss GBV and the different effects it has on us from a cultural, a generational perspective, but more importantly, and I'm going to throw our firebomb question out now, is that, I don't know if you guys saw, but did you realize what the statistics were during COVID?
Frightening.
There was an
Did it go up?
It was
Yes.
120,000 calls during the level 5 lockdown
Sure.
To one place.
to one place.
Just to the national hotline alone, 120,000 calls made in the first 3 weeks of our
Gender-based violence
Related. Yeah.
Women and teenagers. 120,000 calls from women and teenagers.
So we're looking
guys,
in
so
21 days over 5,000 calls per day.
Sure.
And if we had to really break it down per minute, per hour, we're looking at every second somebody is being abused.
This almost sounds
Yeah.
like this was worse than the COVID impact. So
Yeah.
we're saying let's lock down to avoid COVID, but now we created again that flip side. We created a flip side of danger for women and teenagers.
Yes.
Why do you think there was an increase during lockdown?
Where do we start?
So I did a little bit of research, and it's opportunity was created. So it was worldwide. South Africa, we've always been at the top end of gender-based violence, so we've just seen it more significantly here. But across the world, stats went up, and it was largely due to COVID lockdown just creating more opportunity for predators, because women didn't really have access, transportation, those sort of modes and mediums to get away from it. The other reason was, when you find that, whether it be a pandemic or any other reason that causes some sort of unrest, particularly economic unrest that makes men, so if you're talking about it from a male predator perspective or a male violator perspective, because they're supposed to be providers. And you're talking about already unstable men. So it just created a lot more frustration. And if you know the whole gender-based violence or the abuse cycle, the very first part of the cycle is when you're in that area of frustration. So now COVID and lockdown just put us in this massive space of frustration. And who was there for them to take it out on?
Yeah, because now you can't go out to your friends, your buddies, where you blow off steam.
Yes.
You can't go to the gym.
Or safety
You can't
even.
go to, I'm just thinking for the
From the
person,
predator.
the predator. They've got no place to, if you get into an argument, I can't just be like, okay, I'm just going to go to my friends.
Yes.
You're stuck together. So now the only outlet is to actually take it out physically on your loved ones, and that's scary.
The other thing was opportunity to rape. So a lot of what went up statistically was young teens that were molested and raped by family members because of proximity. So now these teens were not in school environments, or a lot of them, because they know what happens in their homes, go to friends a lot. Now you're stuck with your predator. So a lot of teens called in about rape by an uncle, an elder brother, a
Because
cousin.
that's what's scary. You were with your family. It's in the family. Sure.
I mean, we can go back, I want to touch on COVID again, but the thing that concerns me is that we're talking statistics went up, which means it's always been a problem in our society, in our country. Gender-based violence is a massive issue in South Africa. And for me, it was going back to, okay, we're out of lockdown now, we're level 5. The statistics were there. We obviously had these relationships prior to COVID. So what do we do now, guys? What do? We obviously know that there are red flags in every situation. What should we be telling our girl children, our sisters, our friends, I mean, in a day and age of us being out in society or online dating, or what do we look at and what do we do to educate on the red flags? Because coming from an abusive relationship myself, it's that there was always red flags. There was always a time where I thought, this is going to end badly. And for me, it's about signs that I should have seen. And I completely understand why I have been through this, because I believe it's a massive part of my purpose and where I'm going. So I understand and I embrace it. That's why I can speak about it. But how do we educate women that fall victim or are preyed upon by these guys? And let's be honest, it's not only female on male, it's female on male as well. There are female abusers. So for me, there are red flags in a personality, in a psyche. What would you guys agree? You know?
Oh, definitely. I think one of the biggest red flags that I've seen, and obviously we're not going to mention names of anyone. We're just going to generally talk about some experiences we've had or known of, friends, family, but no names will be mentioned. But what I've noticed a lot of the time is they try to isolate you. So they try to, the perpetrator. So before it gets to the point where they're actually laying their hands on you or anything, right? Those red flags that happen beforehand. I find that they try to demonize the people around you that are closest to you in order to isolate you and make you trust them more than you trust anyone around you. That's the one red flag that I've spotted,
And I think actually before they even get there, that they start isolating you, is they first build a trust relationship with you. Where, and I think it was you that said it, that you've actually seen it, where they set up scenarios to make you believe that they have your best interest at heart. So when I come to you and I'm saying, I have your best interest at heart, Ginny, I don't think she really wants to see you succeed. But this and I mean, I've seen it firsthand in two very important relationships in my life. One, emotional abuse, the other, physical and emotional and verbal. Where I never saw the part where how the trust relationship was built, but I did see how they'd isolated, and it's almost like abusers. Remember, they learn to be manipulators. Part of a very unhealthy upbringing is when you learn from what you've seen through parenting.
How to manipulate a person.
It's part of, it's a huge psychopathy. Like if you think about serial killers, people with borderline personality disorder, which is part of an abusive behavior or a personality that's linked to abusive behavior, one of the personalities. Manipulation is such a huge tool, and it's because they saw it growing up.
So it's even entrenched in them. And I feel sometimes, I don't know if this is true or not, but they'll say certain people attract abusers, but I think it's like the abusers are so used, it's entrenched in them. They can see it in you. If you'll be easier to manipulate than other people. Because even when you think of isolation, right, a lot of the times you think it means they're going to just say, don't go to your friend, don't go to your mom. And that's something that's, you'd be like, oh, of course, no, he's trying to isolate me, I'm not going to listen. But it's not, it's subtle.
You don't see it.
You do not see it coming. All of a sudden, did you see Newa was speaking over you? Did you see? She doesn't let you finish your point. And then you're like, it's true. Actually.
That time you've
those little things,
Nice thing you bought for me while we're talking about that even.
What?
No, the lover. While he's got a present for me.
Yes. Always looking out for your best interest, making sure that I want to make sure you're fine. I want to make sure you're okay. And I don't like how they treat you. I don't like. It's subtle. It's not, don't go to your friends anymore. And by the time you realize that you're isolated, it's too late. And now you rely on them and only them. And
but guys, so I hear that is more in a relationship. But now we had a COVID situation where people were kind of forced to be in each other's spaces. And my question also is, now that we are out of COVID, do we think it's going to be less, or women are still facing that?
I think it will be less because you're not stuck together anymore. You're facing it,
but very interesting to see what the stats are like, because
yeah.
remember, we're still dealing with huge joblessness. Yeah. And joblessness results in men feeling disempowered, and then they need to empower themselves some way. And rape is about power. Yeah. Abuse is about power.
But also now we've opened up the gates. Alcohol you can buy again.
Yes.
All these other triggers.
Yes.
In an environment where you took it away and there was frustration and anger, now you're in an environment where there's frustration and anger, and now you can buy alcohol. I think for me, it's never going to go away. The thing is, how do we empower women to start saying no?
Yes.
And the thing for me is, it's like we were discussing race, and we would say, if yourselves had to speak about someone being white and being automatically would be deemed as a racist conversation.
Yes.
So when I stand up and I go, hey, white man, we've had this experience. Sammy, myself, and Nayo flew to Cape Town, and there was a very derogatory white male that was being very disrespectful to a waiter. And I looked and I thought, you know what, if they're going to actually say something, it's just going to be a race on race thing, and we're not actually going to be productive. It's going to be lost in translation, and it's going to be in the one. And I actually stood up and I just said to the gentleman in so many words, it's unacceptable, and you're actually the reason why our countries are moving forward. And why I'm saying this, to give you some context behind it, is that it's really up to our men in our society to start having more of a voice when it comes to gender-based violence. And it's the men that need to start standing up and going, it's not okay, man, to do that to your wife, or my son, you need to be like this with it. And also the thing for me is, where does it come from? If our men are doing it and the woman, and we're saying it's family, is it something that we're taught? Like we're always going back to, it's something taught by father, mother, granny, auntie, or is it something that's been brought down from generation to generation? What is it? Do you believe it's a race? Do you believe it's a cultural thing? For me, I had different people talking about that you have to stay in a marriage, better or worse, for better or worse. It was a massive thing for me, looking at it like that. But do you believe it's something that we're taught to stay? Why aren't we leaving? We need people to stand up and go, it's not okay, go.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, I'm going to link it to what she also said earlier on. So you're saying you don't think the stats are going to decrease because the men don't have jobs, and their jobs give them more, they feel like they have more power. So it comes down to toxic masculinity.
And what about women who had the workplace as their safety?
Yes, and they don't. And so it comes down to toxic masculinity, which then links back to what you're saying, which I believe is obviously taught by society, culturally. I mean, culturally, Neo will relate to this part, right? So, and it's the toxic masculinity that makes men feel like you need to be physically abusive to enforce your power, right? So in our cultures, I mean, as Black people, I think everyone, like Zulu, Xhosa, whatever, Sotho, when you get married, the females, your aunts, your mom, your grandma, they'll come and they'll sit down in a room and they will tell you about marriage, and they'll be like, okay, you're getting into this big institution, let's teach you about marriage, which sounds great, right? And then one of I'll mention just two of the most popular things that they say in that conversation that you'll have is, one, they say begazela.
Hey, begazela.
Educate me.
Begazela means... Maybe it should have been in begazela, I would say it means hold on, right? It means no matter what happens. Persevere.
At all costs.
Yes, it means persevere. So it's taught also in our cultures that divorce is looked down upon. So you're not going to get divorced, but you're about to get into something that's going to require you to persevere at all costs. Number one. Number two, they say, and this is a Sotho saying, if I say it wrong, you'll just fix it for me, but they say, Musadi utwara tipa kabukhali, girl. Which means a woman...
Can I illustrate it?
Let's do it. Let's...
Ooh, who's going to be the woman here?
I'll be the woman.
Take it, girl.
So it means a woman holds the knife on the sharper side.
Yeah.
So in the relationship, your husband's holding the knife side.
So expect hurt and pain and blood.
So you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna go through pain. And just hold it, because that's what a woman does. And that shows...
This is teaching, guys, at wedding.
On your wedding day. So then what happens is it normalizes unhealthy behavior and toxic masculinity and patriarchy in relationships. And I think that has a lot to do with why we see so much gender-based violence.
Okay, then but do you believe then in a situation of a male perpetrator, he's going, but what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
On my wedding day,
'Cause it's
my
normalized.
wife must hold the knife at the sharp end.
And do they even teach? What do they teach the guys?
They're probably just going.
I know.
What they teach the
What do they teach the guys?
We even sing that song. Burukuba, munna ha nyakiwi pay silip, like whatever. A man, you don't ask your man
How much
nothing.
he earns.
You don't ask him what he earns, and then there's the next verse says, munna ke silepe ulala di milo. It means a man is an ex. They can borrow him. He can be borrowed. So those are songs we sing at weddings.
Vomited a little bit.
It's songs. Munnaha batliwi paysil. And then they teach women burukuba munna ke mutete. It means wife, your man's clothes need to be ironed perfectly. So you need to learn how to take care of your man. And if he's an ex, he can be borrowed. Don't ask questions.
He's next door now.
He's next door. He's gone wherever.
Okay.
When he comes
Question.
back. Yeah, bro.
Was this sung at your wedding?
Dude.
It was.
I think the question is, which wedding was this song not sung?
Okay, so that's where part of where we need to start stopping. You're not going to let it be sung at Rorisa's wedding.
And you won't teach her the same thing.
The thing is that the songs also have such nice ring to it, and you sing, you don't know. Only when you're in them.
What is your favorite man?
You know better now.
When you know better, you do better.
I mean, you can't tell me a rhythm sounds lovely, but that means it's okay that you abuse.
Or you can be adulterous. I mean, how does that
It's a songs like we.
Use him
I
as an
think
ex.
it is-
He's an ex. Be used.
It's
by
beyond my
sister
ability
and
to
my
conceptualize this.
I love this remix.
I can't conceptualize, like I can't cognitively put it together that there are communities in our society that think it's okay. It's been normalized that men can have multiple partners.
Yeah. And beat you and abuse you, and you
Then
are
you
going
beg
to
and
have
beg.
it rough in this. What they're teaching is you are going to have it
expect it
rough
bad.
in this situation.
And
Just
stick with
that's
it.
what happens. Stick with it.
So therefore, we will just continually breeding generation upon generation that men, they go, but I'm allowed. Like it's a completely normalized situation, and that's a massive concern for me. I mean, even from my side, it was never to that degree, but we were taught, or my grandmother always said that you stick around, you stay. You stay. It's taboo to. It's frowned upon. It's frowned upon to be divorced, and I mean, it's the same sort of thing. But to the extent of it's up to us. For me, the first and foremost that I want to ever teach my daughter or my son that's in a relationship that is abusive is that you leave.
Yeah.
To a point of they don't get to the point where they break down your self-worth, because that's a massive problem.
What
Everyone
about
looks
the
in-
church? Because the church also kind of says stay.
Yeah, I think it's, you know what, if you're looking at...
any church that says
Stay and
pray. Stay and pray.
No, listen, that's a whole nother episode, guys. When we go into religion, we might need more food. And it's a day in our camp. But when
our church says, tell us where he is.
Yeah.
They've literally done it before.
The thing is, it's not something that will be tolerated. Our pastor will not tolerate abuse to women or children. And the thing is, we need to, again, where does the voice come from? We can speak here until we are blue in the face. People are going to either fast forward, switch it off, or you'd better not switch this one off.
Really.
But it will be a situation where we're just having a conversation. We need men. We need men around the world to stand up and go, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, boo.
For me, I was very concerned. There was a post that I put out quite a while ago, and it was a campaign that was run on gender-based violence. And no one even really looked at the post and the copy. They just thought the post was funny. And that's the desensitized. Why is it so desensitized? No, start speaking up. Yeah. So I think this is a call from us at Let's Talk, is that all men need to start standing up for what's right.
But I think we need to tell men how. And one example for me is that if we're saying there's normalized behavior, and there are now men who stepped out of that and recognize the injustices and what is wrong about what we've taught generations of young girls and young boys, they need to go into those communities. And it's not just about how they're raising their children and how they're treating their wives, but it's about being men who walk into communities and say, I'm a successful man with a happy marriage and healthy, happy children. And look, you can have this. But this is how you've got to treat your wife. And this is how you've got to treat young girls. And this is how you have healthy relationships. And those sort of conversations need to happen between men who've stepped out, reaching out to those that are still trapped.
Is this maybe a point where we talk to our viewers? Men, tell us what you've done, your projects that you're busy with around educating other men on how to treat women. I always say, you know, if you knew the power she has, guys, we can birth, we can create a whole factory of birthing children, we can run the world. I mean, in the olden days, queens used to run villages. Women can be strong leaders. And I always say, if only men knew the power in the queen, oh man, they will just revere us. Because it will work in their advantage too. So right now, it's just not working for anyone.
Sure. And another one is, I mean, it's easy to spot it when it's in intimate partner relationships. But in South Africa, guys, we deal with still toxic masculinity. It's still gender-based violence on an everyday basis. If I go for a jog, do you know how much what goes on in my mind?
Head,
just because I know that you go for a jog, somebody might. They're not trying to take your phone. It's one thing to get mugged, and I don't care. Take the phone. But because I'm a woman, they feel they have ownership over it, and they will violate you, you know. So that's gender-based violence in everyday life. When you're driving at, you watch what time. You're like, it's getting late. So I'm not safe. I'm a woman. You get into an Uber, you get into a taxi, any of those. You're like, I'm not safe. I'm a woman. My sister phones me. She even does a fake phone call. Like she'll just send me a voice note. She'll send me the Uber, you know, the screenshot of like, this is the car, this is the driver, and then she'll do a fake thing like, okay, yeah, I'm in the car now. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll be there just in 2 minutes. And she's lying. She's not coming to me. She's going wherever else. But just so that person is aware that somebody is waiting for this person at the other end. So if she doesn't arrive, there's going to be trouble. And that's gender-based violence in everyday life, and not in intimate relationships.
Because we're all living like victims. We might not have been violated. We're not getting abused when we walk into our homes, but just in our general lives, we're living like victims.
Exactly.
And the thing is, again, from a woman's perspective, we are very powerful. So I think it's an opportunity for us to also take our power back. How do we educate ourselves? So we say tools, but how do we use physical ways of actually being confident in a situation that it's me or him?
And also, I think it's two things, because I'm also very me or him, right? If I get scared or angry or whatever, I'm like, let's go. Let's go down.
Yes.
Buddy.
Guys, I wish I had that.
Yeah, but it's not safe. It's not actually safe, because what you should be trying to do is get away. What can you do to disarm this person so you can get away? We're not trying to get into a scuffle for 3 hours with a man who can, then 3 men jump out of the back. And then you're in trouble. Guys. You're a woman. So how can you disarm him long enough to leave? And also, even if you're on a blind date, like, I think let's just
guys.
Even if you're on a blind date, you found somebody on Tinder, and you're like, I don't know if he's safe or not, and you're walking into the restaurant, you know, what do? You know, you've told your family members, okay, I'm going on a date with somebody, and I don't know if it's
Or
safe.
maybe you haven't, because a lot of people live single in apartments far from home. So there's a couple of things that you can do. You can either arrive early to let your waiter, your bartender, the manager at the bar,
we have to go
The
through.
admin of being a woman.
It's a real it's an admin.
Yeah, but finish
But we need to do it.
So you would go into the bar and just advise,
Be like, hey, I'm on a blind
I'm
date.
on this, I met this guy on Tinder.
Yeah.
So if I ask for an angel shot, what is it called? The angel...
I don't know.
We'll put it on our Instagram.
What is it? What is it? What is
But
it?
it's a drink that you order, and I'm pretty sure it's called like the angel shot.
Oh, like if you just say, like, if I ask for a Cosmo, something's wrong.
Well, no, this is a specific drink. So if you ask for, so apparently you should be able to go anywhere around the world and ask for that drink, and it's an international signal that you don't feel safe. You sense something wrong in this date that you're on or whatever it is. It's also, you can go into the bathroom and just check, because a lot of bars are doing it now, where they're putting up what their specific signals are, or drinks that you can ask, or ways that you can signal to a restaurant staff if you're not feeling safe. And there's different ways of ordering your drink. We'll put this up on our Instagram as well, where if you order it with lemon, if you order it on ice, it indicates what sort of assistance you need. Please walk me to my Uber. Please call the police. that sort of thing.
So these are like international standard procedures that
but I don't
most
know if it's
restaurants
made
should
its
know.
way around everywhere.
Do they know? Yeah, at the
So-
restaurant.
I'm worried. What if the perpetrators know?
Well, this is a thing, like, but I think it's easier to go to a bar and just say, I need an angel with lemon. You know, and go sit down.
Yeah.
Or if he won't let you leave. I think, because I'm worried about that too, that what if at the restaurant they just don't know because they've haven't
So
been
that's
taught.
where you go first or you
You
call
go first, you tell Tabo, listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I order
on a flaming Lamborghini on ice.
No, Brad, no.
You know, and then you're like, we're good.
We need the popo.
And that's it, you know.
Yeah.
Then it's one tool you can use, and it's unfortunate that we have to, you know, take ownership of it, of our safety like this, and we don't feel protected.
Yeah.
But what else can we do?
Yeah.
When you get into an Uber, so if you're a woman alone in an Uber, always check your boot. So there's safety rules on the Uber website, but I don't think they're not all amazing. They say don't sit in the front seat. I know some people say sit in the front seat, but it's easier to get trapped by your driver in the front seat. The reason why you check your boot is because there have been cases where people have pushed the seat, and injected you or done something to inebriate you.
They say, because the one I heard is always sit in the front because the back will have child lock and
Yeah.
you won't know unless you check, like close the door, open
door.
again and be like opened, take out the child lock. So they say sit in front so that you don't get trapped in the car.
Ask your driver what your name is, because he should have. So if it's the right driver, he should know what your name is. There's a lot of tools, and I think again it's too many things. There's like 8 things to keep yourself safe, 12 things to keep yourself safe, 15 things. So we'll do a beautifully condensed version for our viewers.
On social media. We need to share how to be safe in all these different spaces.
And the thing is, we need to educate. We need to be in a position where you educate. And you're so right. It's so rightfully what you said. So rightfully so that we need to be in a position where it's not a fight, but you need to be competent. Yeah. So I get very annoyed when we get people that are going, oh, we'll teach you self-defense in a couple of lessons. No. Self-defense and looking after yourself, and the main part of self-defense, which we'll go through, is that it's awareness. It's first being aware of your surroundings. Yes. That is the number one priority, because if you are alert and aware, because we are a very distracted nation. Yeah. You trying to get your car, you got your kids, you're trying to do this, your phone's going through, you're on social media, you're doing this. But the number one priority is to be aware of your surroundings. Yeah. Use your intuition. This is a very people downplay your intuition and your discernment. Yeah. You need to 99.9%. If you feel like something is bad, there is a problem, guys.
And you're better off safe than sorry.
Correct.
So if you feel something's wrong, step away.
And
you're better off.
The sad
safe,
part is when we're looking at a date environment, people are so wanting to be loved and find a partner that you're sort of in this catch-22 of I want to go out, but something's telling you don't go out, but you so badly want to see if this could be the person.
Maybe it's my nerves and my
reservations. Yes. So again, when you're in that situation, the first priority, if you can't decide if it's an excitement or a discernment, go first. Be aware of your surroundings. See where the exits are. Watch where you are. Are you in a place where people can't see you? You own that space. You sit where you want to sit. It's a strange. We seem to fall into this. Oh, let him do it. No, it's gone are the days where that is going to be the way things plan out. We've got to be assertive. We've got to take matters down and make sure that you're alert. Then, when it comes into a situation, you're not there to have 5 rounds with the person, but you need to be in a position where you are constantly.
She would want to have 5 rounds.
You are constant.
So you're trying to rob who?
You're trying to just.
I'll be like, Judy, don't worry. Let's go. We can take him.
But for the rest of us, like, I'm just trying
So the thing is, it's an unfortunate situation, but I'd rather live to see another day and be a little bit more concerned, because if we're talking about the topics that we speak about, everything has a point of being alert or understanding or being educated. Don't fall for these slapstick people as well that are coming in just to teach you a few funny moves.
Make a few bucks.
Make sure it is a reputable person teaching you. Make sure that you're not going once a month. You need to drill it into your mind. It needs to be a second. It needs to be like an involuntary reaction.
So like what would you advise? How often should I go?
At least minimum once to twice a week.
Yeah.
Because I would have fallen for, I'll teach you one day. I'm like,
No.
okay.
I'm like, yeah, once a month.
And then can you imagine when you're in that scenario, do you think one day is going to be natural reaction?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, anything in life, it's
Yeah.
a draw.
You're
It's a
like
constant,
you're now overwhelmed.
So it should
You're
be-
it's not gonna you can't have memory. It needs to be muscle memory.
That's so true.
It needs to be an involuntary
reaction
that happens.
And the thing is, the power is in your hands. We are just, and the beauty part of it, and we'll, there's a surprise waiting for everybody. We've got somebody, a very special guest, coming to show us a little bit of his moves. And again, it's an expert in the field of woman and an expert in the field of self-defense, and what can you do to prevent? Prevention is always better than cure. 100 times. How do we prevent these situations? So again, it's a situation, we are in a country where unfortunately we're not dealing with violence, we're dealing with frustration, we're dealing with anger, we're dealing with power issues. What is the next step? Why are we so apprehensive to take our own personal safety into our own hands when we've got to think about
my issue is, and I'm not saying that we should not engage safety measures until we're living in a safer world. We have to, but it makes me feel like a victim when I have to live like that, and it makes me feel like, you know, when if a rape victim had to walk into a police station and experience secondary victimization, where the police then says, what were you wearing? I feel like when I have to take self-defense lessons, when I have to worry about the Uber and how I take an Uber and how I react at a bar, that I feel like I'm constantly experiencing what secondary victimization must feel like.
But what else now?
We don't have choices at this point, but until you step up, this is how your women have to live.
So men.
And on the case of men stepping up, we have to get into the man.
Let's do it.
That is stepping up and stepping in today. So I'm going to allow you to do the introduction. On the point of just saying that men, we need you guys to speak to your brothers, speak amongst yourselves, and teach your kids, you know, teach your sons. Get away from toxic masculinity. Don't feel you need to hit women or abuse them verbally or psychologically in order to feel masculine or powerful. So we need you guys to have these type of conversations amongst yourselves. And then, and then if you see a woman being victimized, please step up and step up against your fellow brother. And then, talking about fellow brothers, today we've got somebody that is going to come and be an advocate for us as women and teach us some safety measures, some self-defense, and you're going to tell them all about that.
Who is this man?
Who is this man?
So our very first special guest on this talk is Garreth McLellan, otherwise known as Soldierboy. Probably one of the most dangerous men in our country.
Yes.
Two-time middleweight champion for EFC, so he is the champion for mixed martial arts. So he's going to be coming, and he's a strong advocate for women, doesn't tolerate women or children abuse. So he's the perfect guest to have here, and he's a strong advocate, and he's my husband. So
I was ready for no bias.
Tell them.
So guys, stay tuned. We're gonna just do a quick wardrobe change. We want to get our hands dirty on this one. So stay tuned, and we'll see you later.
Hi, I'm Garreth Soldierboy McLellan, and this is Let's Talk SA. I'm here today to educate you a little bit about one-on-one violence, or should we say muggings, attackings, rape scenarios, any form of time you become a victim. The most important thing to remember that awareness is key. Always know your surroundings, understand what is around you, who is around you. Don't you spend your time on the phone and keeping yourself attached to what's happening in your social media platforms and Facebooks and those kind of things. When you're in the car, make sure the phone's in the bag. Watch what's happening all around you. When you're walking through parking lots, make sure you're aware of who's in that space with yourself. Don't park down dark alleys. Make sure you're parking well lit up areas. If you're not in a well lit up area, don't go. Even if it's going out to see some friends, just say, listen guys, I don't feel safe parking myself here. I'm going to go home. They might not understand, but it keeps yourself safe at the end of the day. Most crimes in South Africa are surprise attacks, where criminals will use the element of surprise or chaos to create whatever scenario they want with you, whether it be a mugging, whether it be a potential rape, whether it be a potential murder. So keep your finger on the pulse. Know the cars that are around you. I know it's very difficult to monitor the everything around you all the time, but just take in as much as you can. If you see people acting suspicious, then take it as a sign. It'd rather be over-cautious than under-cautious at the end of the day. Nonchalant will generally get you into trouble.
Sorry, may I ask a question? What would you do if we're talking about gender-based violence? What would you suggest that we do in our own homes if we are...
Well, look, if you are in a situation where your partner is being physical towards you, you need to get help. Speak to the local police, speak to a family member, speak to somebody close in your circle, and get it out there. Get yourself out of that situation. Staying is not going to help. It 9 times out of 10 in those scenarios just ends up getting worse and could cost your own life at the end of the day. So I would suggest for myself in that scenario getting out. But if I put in a scenario where I need to defend myself, I always say that martial arts is a very underrated concept when it comes to children, when it comes to bullying, when it comes to females and then protecting themselves. I do believe that it is the right of every human to understand how they are capable of looking after their own personal space. Invest in that time the same way that you invest in buying clothes, going for runs, staying fit, eating. Invest in that time. Find a martial arts. For me, I would feel that probably the best form of martial art for a woman to use to protect herself is jiu-jitsu. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a form of combat that they utilize pressure, weight, materials and garments to create chokes and breaks and holds. Very effective because it neutralizes somebody a lot quicker. If there's multiple attackers, it will stand you in good steads. Fighting knives and guns, very different concept. It's something that you need to be constantly training in. The same as the self-defense, it's a daily investment. A knife is a very horrible thing and can create a lot of damage. If you do not know how to handle that scenario, to try and combat it on your own is only going to end up in disaster. So if that's a space that you would like to know and understand, there are multiple instructors around communities that are willing to help. But that's just a long-term investment. It's an everyday thing. And you're never going to be this amazing knife fighter in a short space of time. The same with it goes with a gun. Gun is probably the most powerful protective tool, but you need to understand how dangerous it is, not only to your own life, but to lives around you. It takes constant training, constant development. In a combat scenario, when it comes to hand, when you get in a tussle, somebody tries to grab you, pull you into a dark alley, your husband is abusing you. Again, forms of martial art, best way to learn, you then need to be on a regular basis. Self-defense is something that it's a long term, it's a lifestyle, and it's not just a daily thing. I can give you some small tips that can save your life. Going into a combat situation, number one priority, always get yourself out of the situation. Always leave, make smart decisions that you don't have to be in a space that you're putting yourself at risk. If you do and it's your only option, the best scenario for yourself if you do not have combat training would be to attack probably the most vulnerable positions or most vulnerable spots on a human body. And we start, that's the groin, that's the groin, the eyes, the nose and the throat. Each space has an individual way of attacking them and can be very violent. When you match somebody or you're now going to attack, to respond to an attacker, you must understand that he's already in a very heightened sense space. He's very aggressive, and for you to come out on top, you need to match that intensity and be more aggressive. So it's an all in or all out kind of thing. If I'm not going to do anything, I'm getting away. If I'm in, I'm all in. Okay. So we start with the eyes. The eyes is a very basic and simple thing. We've seen it many times in the movies. These principles have been around for many years, and it's not like it's new news. So eyes. So if I want to attack the eyes, as you can see, Jenny, she's using her thumbs and she's inserting it right in the space where the teardrops are. You know, your tear ducts. We're going to stick our thumbs into them. We're going to drive them into the eyes, and we're going to try and squash the eyeball against the side of.
Pop it out.
Well, with enough force, and it can happen. With the right force and intent, yes, this is what the result you're going to get. But also, we know how sensitive the eyes. If you press those eyes hard enough, it's going to cause enough pain for you to create enough time to get away. Not to continue to fight. Second attack would be to the nose. There is an old theory that if you strike the nose hard enough, it can kill you. It can, but it has to be done with the right technique. So, in attacking the nose, breaking the nose is going to create a lot of scenarios. All right. Sometimes breaking the nose will make the eyes swell up, cause a lot of trauma to the facial area. Breaking the nose is incredibly painful for most people. This would create a lag for you to get away. All right. Okay, so when we want to strike the nose, we can use two options. A closed fist. A closed fist again is some training. There's a lot of training behind that, so that would be a normal punch. Striking with a hand, I use the weights in my feet, so I drive the power from my feet base. Okay. So we generate we generate power from our feet. We drive through our hips, and then I use the torque and the snap in my shoulders to create the force going forward.
What does that mean? What's a torque and snap?
So from this, it kind of look at it like a shutter, an open and close shutter. Okay, so you open the shutter and you close that shutter. So opening that shutter, turns it, loads it, close. Right, so look, I either go two ways. So if I want to generate power this way, I dip this direction, so I close, open. This direction I open, and then I close the shutter. Right, okay, we're going to drive that. We drive that into the nose. All right, I want to strike it on the nose. Okay, just stay still for me. So I want to strike. I throw the arm. I'm going to use the base of my wrist to the base of my palm to strike into the nose. Okay, I'm going to drive forward and I'm going to push up. Okay.
The palm lands up on the nose up.
Once I make contact, as soon as I feel the contact, I'm going to drive my hand up.
Remember all this.
What this will do is it'll generally snap the cartilage at the top of the nose, and then there's a series of things that can happen from there. But we create enough chaos for ourselves to turn and get out of that situation. Remember, if not done effectively, all you're going to do is you're going to make him angry, and you're going to make him more aggressive towards you. So these are things you need to be sure about. Okay. Then the throat, if you strike the larynx hard enough, you can crush the larynx in the throat, and it then would suffocate somebody. So how would I effectively strike that in the most effective way? I've been in a scenario where I was attacked, and I tried to use a punch to create that damage, and the target was off slightly, and it wasn't then as effective as it should have been. So I would always suggest an open hand. I'll frame like this, and it's the same way that if you see somebody grab somebody around the throat. So I'm going to use my hand. If I wanted to grab Jenny by the throat, that would be my position, but I keep that open in L shape. I use that same drive. I hit. When I hit in the throat, I then same movement, I drive it up towards the chin. So what are we doing? We're smashing the larynx back, we crush it in, and then we drive it up. And it then generally puts it in a position where you would break it. Again, maximum force. So your intention must be to level this guy. With the adrenaline that you're going through, it is very, very, very possible. Okay, last but not least, groin strike. Every man out there knows a good shot to your friends downstairs is gonna level most guys. Okay, but the intention is there. There's knees, there's hand strikes, there's reverse hand strikes, and then a good old handful will.
That looks dangerous.
A good old handful will of that can definitely cause a lot of pain. So you just, it's all about understanding the vulnerable points. We put it in a gent system. It's groin, eyes, nose, throat, and then attacking, using those vulnerable points to attack your opponent or your attacker would or could potentially save your life.
Do all of them or?
Well, look, it's a process of how comfortable do you feel? What is my ability? Do I have that level of ability to put multiple attacks together? No, I don't. I've been caught by surprise. I don't know how to get out of here. I'm in a life and death situation, and he gets close enough for me as a woman. I've got nails I got nice, lovely nails. I grip the back of his. I grip the back of his ears.
Then you groin him.
Well, one.
Yeah.
So there is a groin strike, or I stick those thumbs into his eyes. Now what do? I create trauma to his eyes. There's a momentary split for you, 10, 15, 5 seconds of him grabbing in pain.
And you run.
And you run. And you leave whatever's behind, purse, keys, gone. You get to the closest lit up space where there are people.
Maybe just phone. No phone?
Oh, your life or your phone, girl?
Social dilemma, guys.
Look, you must remember when it comes to defending your own life that it's a decision. It's my life or his life. And then what levels or lengths am I willing to go to?
Yeah.
And that's a split-second decision. These are not things that can be taught very easily. These are things that you need to do by going to a martial art or some sort of combat training or some sort of self-defense and continuously training those skills. You live in a country which is incredibly dangerous, incredibly violent, and my suggestion is that women need to start taking control of their own space and learning how to defend themselves. You look to the people around you to defend you, but sometimes it's not always the case.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Soldierboy.
Woo! Can we do a demonstration?
On you. Yeah, I specifically wanted to try that.
How's it, guys? I'm Garreth Soldierboy McLellan, and this is Let's Talk ZA. Guys, my stance on gender-based violence is it's not acceptable to beat any woman. There's no opportunity that a man should take to put his hand on another woman. It's very cowardly. It's something that is not manly. It doesn't put you in a position of power. It actually makes you very weak. Please, guys out there, be strong. Show that you are willing to protect the women of South Africa. Use your voice and let's make a dent in gender-based violence.
Yes. Thank you, Soldierboy.
And viewers, if you'll stay tuned to our Instagram, there's a lot of information around gender-based violence in terms of how you can get out of it. So we want to share with you some tips, some signs, red flags to know if you're entering an abuse cycle, ways of recognizing if you are already in an abuse cycle and how to get out of it, where to seek help from. So keep looking at our Instagram and checking out our posts so that you can know if you're in it and how to get out of it.